Hello, this is Patricia, welcoming you to the 2173rd edition of the Enfield Talking newspaper. Dateline, 13th of December 2018. The readers this week are Ross, Dem, Katherin and Patricia, with Has on the controls. The editors were Team B, and the production and distribution team is Peter and Sandra. Our title music is Country Rock Polka, composed by Pat Prilly, Fernand Bouillon and Harry Breuer, performed by Jean-Jacques Perry, and it's used with his kind permission. The local stories that we'll be reading come from the Enfield Independent and the Enfield Despatch and are their copyright. The events information has been collated by us from other stories. Our lead story this week, We Need to Do More for Our Young People. So one further message before we start with our news stories for the evening, the sunrise and sunset times for the week beginning Monday the 17th of December. These are sunrise 08:01 and sunset 15:54. And now over to Dem, who will read the first item of news.
We need to do more for our young people. Enfield Council has been accused of letting down the borough's youngsters after failing to win funding for youth projects. Conservative leader, Councillor Joanne Laban, blamed an incompetent submission by the council for its failure to win money from a £15 million pot aimed at providing more opportunities for young Londoners, particularly those at risk of getting caught up in a crime. The Mayor of London's Young Londoners Fund was set up to support a range of education, sport, cultural and other activities for children and young people. But the council's bid for the money, which came on top of an earlier £30 million funding round, was unsuccessful after the Greater London Authority ruled the proposals lacked outputs, outcomes and capability. The council has defended its bid and pointed out that only a small number of applications were successful. Councillor Laban said, Enfield's Labour Council let down our young people with this submission. It shows incompetence as many other boroughs were awarded funding, but Enfield missed out. We are lucky to have a lot going on in Enfield for young people, just not run by Enfield Council, but we need to do more given our problems with serious youth violence. Councillor Laban called on the council to sharpen up its act when it comes to putting together funding bids. Labour councillors defended their record on crime at a full council meeting last month that followed a spate of violence in Edmonton. They blamed funding cuts on the Metropolitan Police and the council for stopping them from tackling crime and its causes. The council put on a £100,000 package of youth activities during the summer months, aimed at preventing youngsters from getting caught up in criminal activity. An Enfield Council spokesperson said, Enfield's bid to the Young Londoners Fund focused on providing additional support to children and young people at risk of school exclusion and or starting to become involved in crime, and was to supplement existing provision. The bid was developed by a partnership board of council officers and partner agencies, including the police and community organisations. The grant fund that we applied for received 109 bids from all parts of London, totalling £85 million against a fund of £45 million. Only 4 bids were successful, receiving a total of £3.8 million between them. Given the level of historical need in our borough and our historical underfunding, we are very disappointed to have not been successful on this occasion and will be submitting another bid when the next funding round for Young Londoners Fund opens in the new year.
The need for engineers. With companies crying out for engineers, one of the country's leading recruiters is urging youngsters to take a serious look at the industry. Michelle Stewart, Managing Director of Wild Recruitment in Portsmouth, said last year's opening of the University Technical College in the city is an important step, and she wants more people to consider engineering because there has been a steep growth in the number of jobs available. Wild Recruitment, who's employ nearly 20 consultants in the Portsmouth area, has recently doubled the size of its engineering and technical department. Michelle said, "We supply high-quality candidates and work with companies which are household names. Recently, we have seen a dramatic upturn in the number of workers required in engineering and technical roles. Companies are coming to us and they know we can supply good workers, but with the numbers of jobs being created in the sector, we are going to need a larger workforce. Wild Recruitment supplies all types of workers, from design engineers and electrical fitters through to the variety trades and production staff, right up to those getting the products out of the door. And the company, which also has offices in Milton Keynes and Poole, recruits in the commercial, office, industrial and driving sectors."
Councillor sacked over Pinkham Way concerns. Bowes councillor Yasmin Brett has been sacked from the Cabinet of Enfield Council after expressing concern about a wildlife sanctuary. Councillor Brett walked out of a Cabinet meeting last month prior to a discussion on the North London Waste Plan, which includes Pinkham Way in Haringey Borough as a potential site for waste disposal. The former Cabinet member for Public Health claimed her concern for wildlife at the site of importance for nature conservation meant she could not participate in the debate. Councillor leader Nezil Chaliskan later issued a statement. "I intend to reappoint the same councillor within 2 weeks. In the meantime, I have taken responsibility for the public health portfolio. The reason for my decision is that our Cabinet operates on the basis of collective positions and confidence. I take the integrity of the Cabinet structure of the Council to be very important." Councillor Brett was approached for comment.
Council's set for showdown with Mayor over new homes. Enfield Council could be heading for a showdown with the Mayor of London over the fate of the borough's green belt. The Labour-run council is considering building on green belt land as it struggles to meet the new target of building 1,876 homes in Enfield per year, with only 550 being built at present. Last month, councillors rejected a call by opposition Conservatives to ban any new homes from being built on the green belt, which has been protected against development since 1947. But the next day, after being quizzed during Mayor's question time about whether he would block attempts to build on Enfield's green belt, Sadiq Khan said, "If it is the case that their local plan is in breach of our policies, I will object. It's important to protect the green belt." A draft document outlining the objectives of Enfield's new local plan, which will guide planning policy in the borough over the next 15 years, states that there are strong sustainability arguments in favour of developing some greenbelt land. The railway station at Cruise Hill is used as an example of an area that has the greatest potential to act as a hub for sustainable growth. However, local plans drawn up by councils must comply with policies in the London Plan, which is decided by the Greater London Authority, the GLA, and currently contains a commitment to protect the green belt. Enfield residents will soon be able to have their say on the document, with an initial public consultation set to be launched this month. Presenting an opposition motion calling for the green belt to be protected, Conservative Group Deputy Leader Edward Smith told last month's full council meeting, "Cruise Hill has been mentioned as a possible location for building on the green belt. Building on gardens will be made easier than in the past, and building high-rise blocks in town centres will also be easier. This consultation will be a fishing expedition to get support for this basic thesis. But we think the main reason for the lack of housing built in Enfield over the last 10 years is down to the failures of the council." Meridian Water in Edmonton was frequently brought up in last month's debate, with 2 deals with developers having fallen through in the last year and no new homes having yet been built there, despite the council pledge to build 10,000. Councillor Smith said, "Large regeneration schemes have moved at a snail's pace. When will the council get a grip on Meridian Water?" Council leader Nezil Chaliskan admitted that building the number of new homes required by City Hall had proved to be difficult. She said previous housing targets were challenging, but were moderate in comparison to these new targets, We're now expected to deliver 1,900 homes per year. A step change is obviously needed. We will be seeking the views of all residents and stakeholders in a 12-week consultation before we come to a decision. We're asking people to suggest sites for new homes and come up with ideas. Enfield has the fourth largest area of greenbelt land in London, with 37% of its total land falling under the designation. According to new figures released by the housing charity Shelter, Enfield also has the seventh highest rate of homelessness in the UK. Councillor Khaliskan said, "We value our green spaces just as we value those people in Edmonton, where one in 4 children live in poverty, largely down to the fact that they cannot afford their housing costs." Concerning a potential clash with the GLA over building on the Greenbelt, the councillor's deputy leader, Daniel Anderson, said, "This is not a done deal. We're in a process of consultation."
Staff trial dockless bikes. And this is a story about staff at Enfield Council who will be trialling a new dockless bike hire service with a view to rolling it out the scheme across the borough in 2019. Enfield Council is working with London-based company Beryl and will be encouraging staff to ride the dockless pool bikes for work trips using recently constructed cycle lanes enabled through the Cycle Enfield scheme. An initial pool of 15 bikes will be available at the Civic Centre and Charles Babbage House before a wider deployment at the Edmonton Centre, Triangle House and Clavering's Marsh House. It is intended for the scheme to then be rolled out across the borough with bikes made available for residents to hire. Enfield Council's deputy leader, Councillor Daniel Anderson, said, "One of the central aims of Cycle Enfield is to promote and facilitate more active forms of travel to improve the health and well-being of everyone who lives, works and studies in Enfield. By encouraging our staff to use our safe and secure cycle routes, another key aim, we can lead by example. Already, many council officers use their own bikes to get to and from work, but we'd like to help those who haven't quite managed to get into the saddle. After a trial period over the next few months, we would hope to extend the scheme in the spring to include residents across the borough. Enfield Council is committed to providing safe and accessible means of travel across the borough in a way that works for everyone. It is great to see more people cycling across Enfield, particularly along the completed A105 route, together with the continued popularity of our guided rides and cycling classes, and the use of our cycle hubs."
Putting down roots. Thousands of trees set to be planted by residents in Edmonton. Trees have innumerable benefits for us, for the environment. They absorb carbon dioxide and give off oxygen. They reduce the amount of rain runoff, limiting erosion and pollution in our waterways and helping to alleviate the effects of flooding. They are also an important source of food, protecting and shelter for life for wildlife. At Montague Recreation Ground in Edmonton, affectionately known as the locals as Montague Rec, the Environment Agency has recently completed a flood alleviation scheme. To people with memories of the floods of 2000, when 192 homes were underwater in the Montague Road area, this has come as a blessing, lowering the flood risk to 1,393 properties. Once this scheme was finished in 2016, the Environment Agency also did some landscaping work, which improved the look of the area. Now we want to do more. Bountague is a local community organisation in Lower Edmonton that is founded with £1.1 million over 10 years from the Big Lottery Fund in order to deliver positive change to the area. Bountague, named after Bounces Road and Montague Road, is one of 150 big local areas in the country that have received this level of funding. Our latest project is a major tree planting scheme for Montague Rec. On Sunday, the 2nd of December, they were hosting an event to plant 3,000 trees. It will kick off at 10 a.m, planting and mulching going on until 3 p.m, but most of the plants will happen along the border of Montague Road as a woodland fringe to help block air pollution, and there are also plans to plant small copses of fruit and nut trees on the mound. The event was being organised by Trees for Cities and was backed by Mayor of London Sadiq Khan, who wants to turn London into the UK's first national park city. The Mayor's initiative chimes perfectly with one of the 5 principal goals of Bountegue, which is to improve the local environment, and so it's an opportunity too good to miss. St Peter's Church on Bouncers Road is also involved in the tree planting event. Inside the church, will be a plaque listing names of 143 men in the parish who were killed in the First World War, and as part of the centenary commemorations at the end of the war, 143 trees will be planted on a specially designated area of Montague Wreck. Residents who live in the houses once occupied by these heroes are invited to come and plant a tree in their memory. And after the planting, there will be a celebration at St Peter's Church where everyone would be welcome to join them.
Council's plans for vibrant town centre. Enfield Council has submitted an ambitious outline bid to Transport for London's Livable Neighbourhoods programme, which, if successful, will form part of the large-scale regeneration of Enfield Town. Enfield Council's leader, Councillor Nezil Chaliskan, said, "This demonstrates our ongoing commitment to transform Enfield for the benefit of everyone. By working together in a constructive way, we have an opportunity to create a vibrant major town centre whilst respecting the town's unique character. The plans, which are currently at the conceptual stage, outline a visionary proposal for an ambitious programme of works that would encourage walking, cycling and the wider use of public transport. They are also part of the Council's drive to explore opportunities which can attract external investment into the borough. Whatever the outcome, in spring 2019, Enfield Council will kick off a fresh conversation into how best to make Enfield Town a key destination. Enfield residents will be encouraged to share their thoughts and views, whilst businesses will have an opportunity to help shape the proposals."
Elderly woman's car towed after council suspends bay without warning. A man whose elderly mother was fined by the council after her car was towed away without warning has said she was treated like dirt. Paul Adams said his 85-year-old mother Shirley was not told that Enfield Council was planning to suspend a parking bay near her house on Lavender Hill while utility works were carried out. She only found out when she walked out of her house to find her car had gone, and she was given a £265 penalty charge notice, PCN, for breaching parking rules. Mr Adams said it would have been easy for the council to tell his mother about the suspension because she has a parking permit. He said one day she came out and her car was gone. They'd suspended the parking without telling her. They didn't have the courtesy to try and track her down and say, "We're suspending parking." They could have given advance notice to people in the immediate area or found her, but they didn't do anything. Mr Adams said the only warning the council gave was a sign on a nearby road saying parking would be suspended. But as his mother only uses the car on the odd occasion, she didn't spot the sign. Mr Adams slammed the way the council handled his mother's case, saying it dealt with her in a way that lacked warmth and compassion. He said their responses have been terrible. Enfield Council were not interested, really. In a nutshell, that's it. Their attitude was, we have no time to contact people if the parking is suspended. My mother was stressed about it. She feels like she's been treated like dirt. Mr Adams' mother was offered a £200 refund as a goodwill gesture by the council and given information about how to appeal the PCN. But he said she had to give the council her bank details 3 times before the £200 was finally paid into her account. Mr Adams added that his mother did not want to bother appealing the PCN. He said she decided it wasn't worth the effort for the pain and suffering of the appeals process. An Enfield Council spokesperson said, from time to time parking bays will have to be suspended and plenty of notice is given to vehicle owners to remove their cars. In this instance, a utility company requested the suspension of the bay. As the car in question had not been removed on time, the council's enforcement team was asked to take action. If motorists feel that a removal and PCN have been issued incorrectly, they can appeal to the council and to independent adjudicators. In this particular case, as a goodwill gesture, the council refunded the removal fee of £200 to the motorist on October the 26th. Further information was offered to the family on how to appeal the PCN.
The local community came out in force to welcome the festive season to Palmer's Green Town Centre with a Christmas light switch-on event last month. Local businesses and residents organised a string of activities to brighten the darkening days. While the lights themselves are pretty, shops have also entered into friendly competition for the best-dressed window, leading to some great creativity. Children were invited to vote for their favourite, and the winner will be announced later in December. Walker Primary School's choir led the crowd in singing Christmas carols, and everyone joined in enthusiastically, including local MP Bambos Sharon-Ambus and Deputy Mayor of Enfield Kate Analu. Everyone enjoyed the sing-song, but, as is always the case, people were a bit uncertain what 9 is in the 12 days of Christmas. If you want to find out, carry on listening. Just when everyone thought the event was drawing to a close, who could be heard approaching down green lanes with bells ringing but Mr. and Mrs. Claus? Accompanied by elves in their motorised sleigh, they handed out sweets and, for the health-conscious, pieces of fruit. The children went wild. The event could not have happened without everyone pulling together, contributing to the decorations, donating food and drink, singing and just taking part. Also, watch out for the Christmas elf hunt competition being organised by Cyclone Travel.
MP's son admits drug offences. The son of Edmonton MP Kate Ossimer has quit as a councillor in Haringey after admitting his guilt to drugs offences. Ishmael Ossiman, 29, is understood to still be employed as a senior communications officer by Kate in the House of Commons, and the former Labour councillor was caught in possession of £2,500 worth of illegal drugs at Bestival Festival in Dorset. In October, Ishmael admitted to 4 drugs-related charges at Bournemouth Crown Court and was sentenced to a 2-year community order and 20 days of rehabilitation. Ishmael expressed great regret at the incident. As he resigned from Haringey Council, he said, "I apologise for the unwelcome attention my case has brought to Haringey." Asked by the Despatch whether Ishmael was still employed by his mother in Parliament, a Labour Party spokesman said, "We don't comment on staffing matters." Kate's Edmonton constituency office declined to add any further comment.
Festive fun at shopping centre. A shopping centre is offering a variety of craft fun in the run-up to Christmas. Whilst Christmas shopping, families at Edmonton Green are invited to meet 2 cheerfully cheeky Christmas elves each Saturday in December between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. The festive characters will be creating free Christmas crafts with children to ensure that they have everything they need for their Christmas celebrations. On Saturday the 15th of December, you can make a wreath to adorn your front door with all things merry and bright, and spread the Christmas cheer for you and your neighbours. On Saturday the 22nd of December, make sure the reindeers don't get hungry this Christmas Eve by making some reindeer food to sprinkle on the front doorstep. With sparkles and glitter mixed with the food, the reindeers will be boosted for the rest of their night of delivering presents with Santa. For more information, please visit the website on www.edmontongreencentre, all one word, .co.uk.
And now, a piece by Carol Stanley, Wildest Dreams it's called, and it's how an overgrown corner has developed into a tranquil spot for the community. And Carol writes, "It all started when I took part in a litter pick about 2 years ago. I hadn't set foot in Busch Hill Park before then, and I certainly knew nothing about its dishevelled wildlife garden. What began as a couple of hours of volunteering subsequently turned into a huge part of my life, combining my love of nature, education and community engagement. The Busch Hill Park Wildlife Garden is a triangle of land which lies between the tennis courts and the back gardens of houses in Southbury Road. Although it had been maintained by the Friends of Busch Hill Park for many years, the number of volunteers was dwindling. They become somewhat disillusioned with the task. The raised pond was a constant target for vandals. Plants and amphibians were being stolen, rocks were thrown in, and the liner was damaged. Another issue was funding. The local authority was cash-strapped, and so any improvements had to be funded by the Friends group, raising money or applying for charitable grants. As a result, the garden was becoming overgrown and unwelcoming. Brambles, nettles and couch grass had pretty much taken over, and litter was a constant problem. It looked unloved and was largely ignored by the majority of park users. I do like a challenge, so I agreed to join the gardening group and the committee. We held public meetings, and it became clear that the antisocial behaviour was the main issue for local residents. They had strong views about solutions, believing that locking the park at night, introducing security lighting, and installing CCTV were the way forward. But these measures come with a heavy cost. Instead, we embarked on a partnership approach. We were all volunteers. The Friends group, adults with learning difficulties from the charity 1-to-1, and children from George Spicer's school. After realising that most damage was occurring in the evenings, we decided to install a lockable gate. The council was persuaded and agreed to work with the Friends group using funding from the Enfield Society to make it happen. The gate was installed a year ago, and occurrences of vandalism and littering have fallen considerably since. Now that we have more volunteers, we've been able to hold regular meetings and even summer picnics. Every week, gardening club members work hard to keep the garden looking good. We've built 3 small sunken ponds, a wildflower meadow, outdoor classroom, and new flower beds sponsored by Enfield in Bloom. We've also secured funding from the council for a bench and a living willow dome, which we hope to install this month. The garden is now teeming with wildlife, including bats, bees, birds, amphibians, dragonflies, butterflies and moths. And we've also been chosen for next year's Co-op Local Community Fund, and we'll use this money to continue to promote the garden to everyone in the community.
And following on from that, this story is about college's award-winning job stand. Cable Manor College exhibited at Skills London a careers event for 15 to 20-year-olds on the 23rd and 24th of November at Excel London. Their interactive stand was a collaborative effort between students and staff and won an award for most engaging team. The theme of the exhibition stand demonstrated how Capel Manor supports London's growing demand for land-based skills and the importance of environmental sustainability. Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, opened Skills London on Friday, November the 23rd. As well as being an advocate for helping young Londoners succeed in their careers, Sadiq aims to make London the greenest global city by 2050. Working with the National Park City Foundation, the Mayor intends for London to be declared a National Park City in summer 2019. Capel Manor's exhibition stand showcased the college's diverse course offering across its 5 campuses in areas such as animal management, horticulture, floristry, balloon artistry, arboriculture and saddlery. Prospective students were encouraged to participate in demonstrations that included decorating a large floral arch display, grooming practice dogs, and meeting reptiles from the college's 2 zoos. Skills London is a free 2-day event which welcomes over 34,000 young people and their families, along with 240 exhibitors, including employers, universities, colleges and training providers. The event provides visitors with the opportunity to discover careers through interactive, inspirational activities and demonstrations. Capel Manor Principal Malcolm Goodwin said, "By working collaboratively, our students and staff created a fabulous stand that demonstrated the importance of nurturing and protecting London's green space. Cable Manor College welcomes the London Mayor's vision of achieving National Park City status for the capital. It is our mission to provide outstanding and inspirational land-based learning opportunities across the Greater London region.
It'll be all white on the night. Everyone loves a white Christmas, and the good news is weather forecasters are confident that the UK will enjoy ample snowfall sometime in December. The bad news is the run-up could also be gripped by the coldest winter in 8 years. Temperatures are expected to plunge now enough for snow blizzards, especially in hilly areas in England and Wales on Christmas Day. Meteorologists are even talking about a so-called battleground scenario that will see Arctic conditions threaten the UK's transport schools and offices. Thankfully, there is also an army of professionals who will be working right through the festive period, all with the aim of ensuring the UK citizens stay safe and healthy. Here are just some of the starring roles you can find online. Medical and healthcare. Right now, GPs and surgery managers must contend with the seasonal influx of patients suffering from winter colds and flus. Rather than letting Christmas be a bad humbug affair, they will work hard to ensure patients are seen quickly and get the right remedies. After all, a horrible cold is not the Christmas present anybody wants. Out in the community, meanwhile, nurses and care workers are busy ensuring the needs of the most vulnerable are met, particularly during the cold weather. It's not only healthcare that provides, it's amazing what hot soup and a kind conversation can do to help others in need. The emergency services. Treacherous road conditions, icy pavements and sudden snow blizzards. Winter may be a wonderland in the UK, but it can also bring real danger. And that's why the work of the emergency services, the police, firefighters and paramedics is vital at this time of year. All of these professionals can be called out to deal with accidents, fires. Faulty Christmas tree lights are often a cause, and of course sudden illnesses. It's fast-paced work at the front line and can be physically and emotionally hard work. However, their job satisfaction cannot be beaten. Admin. Wrapping Christmas presents isn't the only paperwork taking place this month, from dentists and GPs, receptionists to medical records clerks, and NHS requires an admin army to take care of official documents. These are ideal roles for those with an organisational streak, as well as the communication skills to work with the people who may not be feeling at their best or need a little reassurance. Military and security. It's a sad sign of the times that the UK's Christmas markets this year have a high visibility policing presence. Terror attacks across Europe have meant extra vigilance is necessary. In some instances, this can even mean armed police on patrol. But thankfully, this is precautionary and should make us feel safer rather than stifling our enjoyment of Christmas events. Similarly, our armed forces will, as ever, be on permanent standby. In some jobs, you need to be switched on and ready to go, whether the weather and whatever the season. Social housing and services. This Christmas will see an estimated 320,000 people homeless, according to the charity Shelter, as the number of people without a safe home continues to rise. 1 in 200 people, meanwhile, are living in temporary accommodation, hostels, or sleeping rough. Housing association employees and social workers help the homeless daily, but it's especially tough at this time of the year. For every challenge you meet, however, there's also an opportunity to overcome it. These victories not only deliver results for the people you're helping, but bring the best Christmas present of all. And if you're feeling inspired to make this Christmas extra special for others, why not check out this latest vacancies online?
Festive family traditions. Hannah Dyson looks forward to a cosy Christmas. For the last 4 years, my family has attended the annual Christingle service at St Luke's Church, Clay Hill. For us, Christingle signifies the beginning of Christmas, a ritual that brings together the whole community in celebration. Christingles are prepared in the days preceding the service and are made with a large orange, a red ribbon, and a candle placed inside the orange. Toothpicks surround the outside of the orange, holding an assortment of sweets in place. Silhouettes surround the perimeter of the church. Puffer jackets, hats and scarves guard against the chill. Candles flicker, creating a magical glow, eyes glistening with anticipation. Away in a Manger is sung with gusto by adults and children alike. An amalgamation of all the colours of a Saharan desert sunset shimmer around the church. Reds, yellows and oranges make us feel hope, joy and elation, but also let us reflect on how lucky we are to be all together in this moment. I love studying the children's faces as they concentrate so hard at holding the candle in place and not dropping it, some so nervous at the task, their hands trembling and their candle spilling tiny flecks of wax on the floor. Most children, including my own, are cheeky and eat most of the sweets before Away in the Manger is finished. The Christmas Eve box is now a firm festive tradition for my family. It is a simple cardboard box decorated with festive wrapping paper containing new pyjamas and a special Christmas book. This year, the box includes a beautiful snowy white hardback of A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, The Nutcracker by Ernst Hoffmann, Geronimo by David Walliams, plus new bear onesies, matching grey Christmas pyjamas, marshmallows and a hot chocolate. My children will certainly be warm and cosy as they prepare their stockings for the fireplace. They will leave mince pies, carrots, sherry, milk and cookies for the arrival of Santa, and then snuggle on the sofa together with their new books and a warming hot drink. We are also going to see a panto at Millfield Theatre in Edmonton, Beauty and the Beast. My work colleague Trudy is taking her 3-year-old granddaughter and suggested we go together. We can't contain our excitement. After the show, we will take the train to London to visit Regent Street, see the Christmas lights, admire the window decorations at Liberty, and soak up the Christmas Eve atmosphere at Trafalgar Square. We will then take the train home to Enfield, when it will be nearly time for this year's Christingle's service. Christmas Eve is a special day for us, and we may be exhausted by Christmas Day, but it is totally worth it.
And now I have an item by Claire Fisher of Health Watch Enfield. It's called Your Feedback Matters, and it's the latest local health and social care updates from Health Watch Enfield. Did you know that Dover House and Angel GP surgeries have merged? The practices began to be co-located at Silver Point in 4th Street, Edmonton, earlier this year, and are now known simply as Angel Surgery. Patients of Dover House should call 020 8887 7555 for appointments. Has your child ever needed a blood test? North Middlesex University Hospital has extended opening times for its children's blood clinic, which now operates between 9 a.m. and 12 p.m, as well as 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. during the week. You can book your child's test online or simply call 020 8887 2366. Next, Claire says, I'd like to say a big thank you to everyone who got involved in conversations on proposed changes to joint surgery, such as hip replacements, in Enfield. We've now submitted our report with all your feedback to the North London Partners in Health and Care, and you can read about it on our website. Feedback from Enfield and other neighbouring boroughs is now being considered, with a view to deciding whether a more detailed proposal should be put together for public consultation early next year. If you missed it in the last edition of Enfield Despatch, proposals to reduce the number of hospitals that provide planned surgery for bones and joints are currently being considered. The operations will be provided in specialist centres instead. On the plus side, the centres could provide world-class care and bring teaching, research and innovation opportunities to orthopaedics. However, There's currently no information on where the centres might be located. Although 1 in 2 of those surveyed agreed with the concept of specialist centres, there was significant concern about travel implications, particularly for vulnerable groups. Our report finds that patients outlined clear caveats that any changes should guarantee shorter waiting times and better care, easy access for patients and their carers, and availability of high-quality staff and facilities. So stay tuned to Health Watch Enfield for more information and updates on this. Finally, what local health and social care services are most important to you? This month, we're asking Enfield residents how they think our work could most help improve services. Please take a short online survey at, and here's the website to go to, smartsurvey.co.uk/priorities/next year. Or simply, if you want to get any more information about Health Watch Enfield, you can get in touch by phone on 020 8373 6283, or you can email them info@healthwatchenfield.co.uk. And now, Dem has been the first of a few sports reports for this week.
Enfield build on Bognor win with Harlow victory. Town hoping corner has been turned. A disappointing spell appears to be over for Enfield Town after a second win in 5 days moved them back up to 5th in the Bostik Premier Division. Following a run of 5 league games without a win, the Towners built on last Tuesday's morale-boosting 2-1 win at Bognor Regis Town with a convincing 4-1 home victory over Harlow Town on Saturday. That double success means Andy Leese's side are now within 5 points of leaders Dorking Wanderers, although they have played at least one more game than all the sides above them in the table, and a chance to build further momentum is halted, at least for the time being, by not having another fixture until Boxing Day. After Aaron Green had put the hosts' first opportunity wide, Harlow saw their penalty appeals waved away when Enfield keeper Joe Wright dived at Christian Scales' feet. The Towners were soon to make the breakthrough, though, when after initially having his back to goal, Green turned well to steer a shot past Joss Beckson with his right foot. Harlow were to get back on terms in the 34th minute when Yannick Kissy fed Scales and he passed inside for Tom Hitchcock to accurately find the top corner. The hosts responded strongly to that setback, with Ryan Blackman firing wide before Mohamed Fowl was twice denied by Beckson after he had also thwarted Mickey Parcell. But the Towners were to be back in front before the interval, when Billy Bricknell converted a penalty after Fowl had been fouled by Paul Rogers. Enfield man of the match Green warmed Beckson's gloves with a stinging drive after the restart, before the points were effectively sealed in the 64th minute. Following a short corner on the left, the Harlow keeper was forced into another save after Parcell had driven into the area, but Bricknell was in the right place to capitalise on the rebound. A fourth goal was to follow 13 minutes later, when a green corner led to confusion in the area and debutant Mark Weatherston forced the ball over the line. Weatherston joined, having made more than 450 appearances in 2 spells for Wingate and Finchley, and Lees told the club website, "Mark was another summer target, and we are delighted to get him now. He will bring experience, which we feel we need right now." The 30-year-old's arrival has led to Taufik Olomawewe being released because Enfield couldn't guarantee him the regular game time he wants.
Ignatians provide a stern test. Player-coach Shane Manning called on Enfield Ignatians to deliver a performance, and his side responded in spades by pushing unbeaten London 2 North West leaders Belsize Park all the way in a 19-3 defeat at the Regent's Park Sports Hub. Having scored 41 tries in 9 previous league games, Park were firm favourites going into Saturday's game, but in the face of a spirited defensive effort by the visitors, their progress stalled. It took until the 39th minute for the hosts to make their first breakthrough, as they boldly ran a penalty move close to the Ignatians' line. The gamble paid off, as with the visitors deemed guilty of a high tackle, the referee had no hesitation in awarding the penalty try. Ignatians responded positively and ended the half camped close to the opposition line after winning a succession of penalties, but they were unable to find that cutting edge. The visitors found themselves on the back foot after the restart, and they did well to keep their line intact in the opening minutes. The siege was eventually lifted, but from deep in their own half, the seemingly hemmed-in hosts broke their shackles and swarmed upfield to double their lead. Although living a little dangerously at times, Ignatians continued to use the left boot of Jack Wilson to pepper the corners and set up field positions. They also claimed their only points of the game via a well-taken penalty from Jordan Wilson. Belsize finally made the game safe in the 76th minute when they used a driving maul to engineer their final try by bursting over from the close range.
Borough boss not disappointed after defeat. Enfield Borough again came away with nothing to show from a meeting with one of the Spartan South Midlands League Division 1's top teams when they lost by a solitary goal to leaders Harefield United at home on Saturday. In a match where the elements caused both teams problems, Borough failed to build on a good first-half performance, and the table toppers were left with their unbeaten league record intact. Despite the result, manager Sean Rees was not too downcast afterwards and said, "For the first time this season, I'm not disappointed with a defeat. We were playing the best team in the division and we matched them for the first 45 minutes. At half-time, you could tell that it was destined to be a one-goal game, and unfortunately, we were poor in the attacking third of the pitch after the break, but there was very little between the two teams on the day." The hosts were the first to go close when a Jemiah Lawrence Plenty corner caught the strong wind and goalkeeper Jacob Bullheimer could only touch the ball into the far post and out for another set piece. Harefield responded when Tashan Jordan curled a 25-yard free kick around the wall only to see it strike the foot of the post. Borough skipper Guy Kiang Benny had to clear a goal-bound effort off the line before the wind intervened again when a CV bow cross floated over the stranded Bullheimer and hit the crossbar. The end-to-end nature of the first half continued, with Enfield's better attacking moments seeing Brandon McKenna combine with both Tage Kennedy and Richard Ennin to create shooting opportunities, but only the latter tested Bullheimer. The impressive Kinaga Benny did well at the other end to rob Lenny Farhall as the striker was preparing to shoot, with only Curtis Jackson to beat before the Enfield keeper stuck out a leg to divert an effort from former Queen's Park Rangers player Richard Paquette up onto the bar and to safety. In contrast to the first half, the start of the second period was devoid of scoring chances, but what proved to be the decisive moment arrived in the 67th minute, when a cross was again caught on the wind as it headed towards the far post. Paquette's initial effort was blocked, but Farhall slotted home from close range. Enfield made 3 changes in an effort to get back into the game, but were unable to threaten the Harefield goal, as the visitors secured the points.
Shopping local is for life. Joe Johnson from Love Your Doorstep writes here, urging people to shop locally all year round. At Love Your Doorstep, we're celebrating our 7th year of supporting local businesses. Not long after the community forum was set up as a Facebook group following the 2011 riots in Enfield, it was clear that people were finding it a useful arena to recommend local businesses. The platform helped promote small firms, especially those without a website or physical premises. One of the aims has been for people to have the opportunity to get to know the person behind each business, all 750 of them, including charities, community groups and schools. Sadly, we're seeing a major challenge to existing high street businesses: online shopping. According to a recent report from the accountancy firm PwC, 14 shops are closing every day nationwide. This amounts to 2,692 shops shutting in the first half of 2018, with London seeing the largest number of shop closures in the UK. But where fashion stores, electrical shops, Italian restaurant chains have seen the biggest closures, supermarkets, booksellers, ice cream parlours and coffee shops are growing. Clearly there's pressure on our high street retailers, but there's also something we can do to save our shops. The first Saturday in December was an important date that we like to support annually. On Small Business Saturday, people are urged to make a conscious effort to support local businesses. But Love Your Doorstep also aims to promote this ethos all year round and create a shop local habit among our community. So here are 3 good reasons to shop local. First, it's a unique shopping experience. Shopping with a local business is a really special experience, fueled with extra passion and care. You're able to build a relationship with the people behind the business. The personal touch helps to create repeat customers. Second, it strengthens the local economy. When you choose to spend your money locally, you're choosing to invest in the economy of your community. This is also helped by local businesses choosing to use your local supplies of products and services, along with being able to offer employment opportunities. Last but not least, it makes high streets more attractive. To prevent the decline of the high street, we need to support independent businesses, but we also need to visit chain shops. Both have a place on our high street. No one wants to see vacant shops creating an eyesore on our doorstep.
Next is a piece from Enfield Despatch with an interview with Monty Meth, president of Enfield Over 50s Forum, speaking to James Cracknell about the group's work helping local elderly people. And it's entitled A Lifetime of Achievement. When I meet Monty Meth, the tireless 92-year-old president of Enfield Over 50s Forum, he is in a triumphant mood. The news had just come in that one of the forum's long-running campaigns had taken a big step forward. Enfield Clinical Commissioning Group, CCG, the body responsible for delivering NHS primary care services in the borough, had agreed to support the forum's annual Winter Fair event early next year, helping to get the message out about keeping warm and well in the cold weather. It is great that they want to work with us, Monty says. There is no doubt that the number of elderly people dying during winter is far worse than the rest of the year. We want to help whatever way we can on fuel poverty and on getting homes insulated and the draft-proof. 20 years ago, when Monty first joined Enfield Over 50s Forum, the group had 70 members. It now has more than 6,000. When I retired in 1999, I joined the forum. It was then called the Enfield Older People's Forum, and I went to a couple of meetings, but all they were discussing was the state pension. It is limited what a local group can do about something like that, and I didn't think the group had much of a future. Then, after 2 meetings, they made me chairman. The forum is now thriving and claims to be the largest voluntary sector organisation in Enfield and one of the largest of its kind in London. More than 3,500 people have sought help from its drop-in advice sessions since 2011, held every Monday morning at Dugdale Centre. There are regular social events hosted at Millfield House in Edmonton, an Over 50s film club at Enfield Cineworld, and forum meetings with guest speakers including police officers, professors, council officials and beekeepers, amongst others. The forum also produces a 16-page newsletter 6 times a year, packed full of useful information and articles, including a regular column written by Monty himself. Campaign wins include persuading the former Enfield Primary Care Trust to introduce digital hearing aids and persuading Transport for London to extend the 347 bus to Barnet Hospital. And what has been the secret to the forum's success? Well, what we have been doing for the last 20 years is raising the quality of life for older people, in whatever way we can. We host a series of events during the year on things like helping to prevent people from falling and Enfield does now have fewer people suffering from falls and going to hospital than anywhere else in London. We have a brilliant development manager, Jan Oliver, who is full of passion and ideas and creativity. She is the inspiration for a lot of the work that we do. Another long-running campaign has been tackling loneliness among older people, an issue for which the government now has a dedicated minister. We were the first organisation in the country to offer support to the campaign to end loneliness, says Monty. Their director, Laura Ferguson, came to us and said how great it was to have a local forum like ours. Not all people who live on their own are lonely, but some are, and we tried to offer them the hand of friendship by offering them free membership of the forum. We're also organising an event on Christmas Day itself at the Quaker Meeting House in Winchmore Hill to offer people company if they need it. Monty is a former journalist, having once been industrial editor at the Daily Mail, and has used his journalistic skills to help promote Enfield Over 50s Forum. For many years, he had a regular column in the now-defunct Enfield Gazette and Advertiser. It was the local media that helped us back when I first joined, when local newspapers were still thriving. I used the media to establish the credentials of the forum. Now we have a big influence locally and good contacts among MPs, the council and the NHS. Monty grew up in Bethnal Green in the 1920s and 30s, serving with the Royal Navy during the Second World War, and later moving to Enfield in the 1960s as he established his career in journalism. Today, the nonagenarian lives in Oakwood with Betty, his wife of 62 years. They have 4 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. Monty was presented with a Lifetime Achievement Award at this year's Enfield Together Awards, hosted by Enfield Voluntary Action. I was very appreciative of that, he says. I have always wanted to be involved in the community and to put something back.
And here's a piece about care in the community, how North London Hospice is helping people cope with life-limiting illnesses. When you enter the Health and Wellbeing Centre in Barrel Green, one of the first smiles that greets you is the volunteer Perry Imirali. Perry's involvement with North London Hospice began 3 years ago, when the charity cared for her mother, who had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Asked how she became involved with the hospice and what motivates her to give up her spare time, Perry said, "After Mum was diagnosed with cancer, we were referred to the North London Hospice's palliative care team. I didn't know much about the hospice then. One of the community nurses came to visit Mum at her home in Edmonton, and we talked about how she would be supported, as in managing her pain and what her wishes were. She was so patient, kind and very caring. Mum was invited to attend the Health and Wellbeing Centre, and it was here that she met so many lovely people. She used to look forward to coming and socialising. She enjoyed the sing-alongs and the art and the great company. One of my fondest memories was of her singing with the violinist in the centre's living room. On other days she was able to have an acupuncture and reflexology to help relieve her pain. Mum found the centre calming and the staff very loving." North London Hospice is a registered charity, caring for local people in the borough of Barnet, Enfield and Haringey. We help people with specialist needs as a result of potentially life-limiting illnesses, and we support patients in making the most of their life despite their illnesses. Last year we cared for almost 2,500 patients, and Perry continued, "Mum wanted to die at home, and I knew that North London Hospice would support her when that time came. The hospice enabled us as a family to have this choice. Mum wanted as much normality around her as possible. And when it came to the end of her life, she was surrounded by her family. She died comfortably surrounded by the people she loved." North London Hospice also offers emotional and practical support to patients' families, friends and carers. It costs $10 million a year to run our services, which are free to patients and their families. People mustn't be frightened of the word hospice, says Perry. It's just a word that we're conditioned to feel frightened of. A year after Mum's death, I applied to be a front-of-house volunteer at the Health and Wellbeing Centre and to offer my support with their social programme. The people who come here are so positive and have such energy, it really rubs off on you. I love meeting the patients and their families. We always have a laugh and they tell me their stories. We sit, we play dominoes, make cards and jewellery. The patients are all very special, and that's why we're here, to make the unbearable bearable. Now, if you want to find out more and help the North London Hospice, please visit their site, which is northlondonhospice.org.
Bows ties. In our regular councillors column, Katherin talks about cuts and campaigns. I was proud to be elected as a Labour councillor in Bows Ward in May this year. I wanted to stand because I truly believe in the power of politics to transform lives. But there is no way to sugar the pill. Central government cuts are hurting Enfield badly. In Bows, the cuts translate into a myriad of issues. People come to surgery each week with well-founded anxiety about crime and the absence of police, or describe how soaring rents and harsh benefit cuts are pushing them to the brink even when they work long hours. Meanwhile, Enfield Council has itself lost half its central government grant since 2010. It gets harder by the day for councillors to help the people we represent. In this climate, it is crucial that we listen to communities and work to stretch every pound left available. But we must be clear, austerity has been inflicted upon us and our communities because of political choices made by central government. That is why I and many of my Labour colleagues support Breaking Point, Labour councillors fighting austerity. As part of this campaign, more than 5,000 Labour councillors have signed a petition which was delivered to Downing Street, appealing for an end to the cuts in October's budget. Sadly, it fell on deaf ears. The planned £1.3 billion of government cuts to councils will go ahead in 2019-20. I and my colleagues will continue to fight this assault on our communities, but not only through protests, but also through creativity. Whether you want to call it community wealth building or municipal socialism, Labour councillors are looking at radical ways to fight back against austerity. In Enfield, schemes such as the energetic local authority energy supplier are looking beyond short-term profits and putting communities first. Similarly, the Housing Gateway scheme is keeping public money in public hands and providing housing for the most vulnerable. I also believe we can learn from radical innovations such as the Preston model, which aims to truly transform local economies for the benefit of the community. In the coming months, I look forward to working with colleagues to work in ways that benefit the many, not the few, in Bows and across Enfield. Councillor Chiba is one of 3 councillors elected to represent Bows alongside Yasmin Brett and Achilleus Georgiou, all Labour. Surgeries are held every Saturday morning between 10:30 and 11:30 a.m. at Bows Methodist Church in Palmerston Road, and if you're interested you can find out more information and call this number 020 8379 2827. That's 020 8379 2827.
Well, we've just got one more piece of public information that you may want to know and to think about over Christmas. The opening, sorry. Write it down. Sorry, it's not. Yeah. Okay, we just have one more piece of information that we usually would try to find for you before the holidays. It's the pharmacies who are open during the holiday period when a lot of shops are closed. It's not yet been published in the papers that we've seen, but Katherin has some details of numbers and contacts you might want to keep by you if you do need to get in touch or to get to a pharmacy over the holiday period. Katherin, have you've got that there?
Yes, I do. And the people that you're looking for are the Enfield Clinical Commissioning Group, the ECCG. I've got a telephone number for them, and that is 020 3688 2800. That's 020 3688 882800. And perhaps if you give them a ring, you might be able to get that information before it's published. And I'm sure as well you could contact our listeners' representative, Diane de Jersey, on 020 8805 6578. And she may have some more information for you in the next few days as well, if you're at all concerned.
Well, we've reached the end of the news items for this week, but before we sign off, we have a few seasonal items that we'd like to share with you. And here's Ross to start the ball rolling. Ross, over to you.
Thank you, Patricia. Now, jokes. What makes something funny? Some jokes are funny no matter what your age, ethnicity or gender. Some jokes can make you laugh even if you've heard them before and you know the punchline. Some jokes have to be seen to get the whole impact, and some can bring tears to your eyes just by reading them. Humour is one of life's surprising gifts. It has the power to save an awkward moment from going completely off the rails, and it can make a good day one that you'll cherish forever. So here we go. Here is my bell-ringing joke. After Quasimodo's death, the Bishop of the Cathedral of Notre Dame sent word through the streets of Paris that a new bell ringer was needed. The bishop decided he would conduct the interview personally and went up to the belfry to begin the screening process. After observing several applicants demonstrate their skills, he decided to call it a day when a lone, armless man approached him and announced that he was there to apply for the bell ringer's job. The bishop was incredulous. "You have no arms." "No matter," said the man. "Observe." He then began striking the bells with his face, producing a beautiful melody on the carillon. The bishop listened in astonishment, convinced that he had finally found the suitable replacement for Quasimodo. Suddenly, rushing forward to strike a bell, the armless man tripped and plunged headlong out of the belfry window to his death in the street below. The stunned bishop rushed to his side. When he reached the street, the crowd had gathered around the fallen figure, drawn by the beautiful music they had heard only moments before. And as they slightly parted to let the bishop through, one of them said, "Bishop, who was this man?" "I don't know his name," the bishop sadly replied, "but his face rings a bell." Boom, boom. That's got to be a long one to go to cracker. Never get in a cracker. Go, Katherin.
And some more seasonal jokes. Here's some that I saved from Christmas last year. They fell out of the cracker. That's what I'm claiming anyway. So, here we go. See if you can guess the answers. Yeah. I won't hold it against you if you do. How does good King Wenceslas like his pizzas?
Deep and crisp and even.
Very good, very good. Same crackers as me, I think. What do angry mice send to each other at Christmas? Think literally. Angry mice. Cross mouse cards. Oh.
I quite like that.
Who hides in the bakery at Christmas? A mince pie. I'm holding up a mince pie that I handily have. Just
big clue, or a little clue. It was a very nice little mince pie.
An honest politician, a kind lawyer, and Santa Claus were walking down the street. Hold on, don't ruin the joke. Walking down the street and saw a £20 note. Which one picked it up? Remember, it's an honest politician, a kind lawyer, and Santa Claus were walking down the street and saw a £20 note. Which one picked it up?
I think that.
Oh, you've read this! That's true. It was Santa Claus because the other two are not real. What does Santa like to have for breakfast? Mistletoe toast, of course.
Oh, I'm not having any of these. Avocado.
And here's three on a kind of similar kind of languagey theme. So, what goes O, O, O?
No idea.
Yes, Santa walking backwards. Hass on the controls, got that one. What's red and white and red and white and red and white? Santa rolling down a hill. And we have conveniently Santa-themed and Santa-shaped Christmas cards, Christmas napkins in front of us. So we're kind of flipping over red and white and red and white. What goes ho ho swoosh, ho ho swoosh, ho ho swoosh? Santa caught in a revolving door.
Skiing down the beast.
Brilliant.
Curb our chuckle muscles for a moment. I brought along one or two poems from one of my favourite poems, UA Fanthorpe, who used to do every year a little Christmas poem for her friends. It went with the card, so it had to be something short and sweet, and it usually involved all the sort of elements of the Christmas story, or not necessarily all the ones that you actually get in the Gospels. As you said, if you've been doing this every year for over 28 years, sending a little individual poem, it gets progressively more difficult to get new angles. So the cast, after all, is limited. You've got Virgin, Carpenter, Baby, Angels, Wise Men, and so on. It has, for some reason, it seemed important not to repeat them too much. So absentees have been roped in. The sheepdog left behind to look after the sheep while the shepherds were on duty at the manger. The cat, who ought to have been there, even if the evangelists failed to notice it. The robin, who is somehow uncanonically embedded in Christmas. I like the idea of this. They're short poems, so if you don't like one, the next one comes on is lovely. I'd just like to give you one of them, my real favourite, which is the sheepdog. And he's a northern sheepdog, so I'm trying to channel now my Sheffield roots, so there may be subtitles, but don't worry. And it's just called The Sheepdog. And remember, it's Christmas night up on the mountain. And the sheepdog singing. After the very bright light and the talking bird and the singing and the sky filled up with wings and then the silence, our lad says, "We better go then. Stay, Shep. Good dog, stay." So I stayed with sheep. After they'd come back, it sounded grand what they'd seen. Camels and kings and such, with presents. Human sort, not the kind you can eat. And a babby. Presents was for him. Our lads took in a lamb. I had to stay behind with sheep. Pity they didn't take me along too. I'm good with sheep. And the babby might have liked a dog. After all that myrrh and such.
Myrrh and such.
So, following
What
on,
do you do with frankincense all day? Can't eat it.
following on from the theme of presents, this one is on a similar theme, and it's a poem that takes me back to my childhood. It's by a chap called A.A. Milne, and it's called King John's Christmas. King John was not a good man. He had his little ways, and sometimes no one spoke to him for days and days and days. And men who came across him when walking in the town gave him a supercilious stare or passed with noses in the air. And bad King John stood dumbly there, blushing beneath his crown. King John was not a good man, and no good friends had he. He stayed in every afternoon, but no one came to tea. And, round about December, the cards upon his shelf, which wished him lots of Christmas cheer and fortune in the coming year, were never from his near and dear, but only from himself. King John was not a good man, yet had his hopes and fears. They'd given him no present now for years and years and years. But every year at Christmas, while minstrels stood about, collecting tribute from the young for all the songs they might have sung, he stole away upstairs and hung a hopeful stocking out. King John was not a good man. He lived his life aloof. Or alone he thought a message out while climbing up the roof. He wrote it down and propped it against a chimney stack. To all and sundry, near and far, F. Christmas in particular, and signed it not Johannes R., but very humbly, Jack. I want some crackers, and I want some candy. I think a box of chocolates would come in handy. I don't mind oranges. I do like nuts, and I should like a pocket knife that really cuts. And oh, Father Christmas, if you love me at all, bring me a big red India rubber ball. King John was not a good man. He wrote this message out, and gat him to his room again, descending by the spout. And all that night he lay there, a prey to hopes and fears. I think that's him a-coming now. Anxiety bedewed his brow. He'll bring one present anyhow, the first I had for years. Forget about the crackers and forget about the candy. I'm sure a box of chocolates would never come in handy. I don't like oranges, I don't want nuts, and I have got a pocket knife that almost cuts. But oh, Father Christmas, if you love me at all, bring me a big, red, India rubber ball. King John was not a good man. Next morning, when the sun rose up to tell a waiting world that Christmas had begun, and people seized their stockings and opened them with glee, and crackers, toys, and games appeared, and lips with sticky sweets were smeared, King John said grimly, "As I feared, nothing again for me. I did want crackers, and I did want candy. I know a box of chocolates will come in handy. I do love oranges. I did want nuts. And oh, if Father Christmas had loved me at all, he would have bought me a big red India rubber ball." King John stood by the window and frowned to see below the happy bands of boys and girls all playing in the snow. A while he stood there watching and envying them all, when through the window, big and red, there hurtled by his royal head and bounced and fell upon the bed an India rubber ball. And oh, Father Christmas, my blessings on you fall for bringing him a big red India rubber ball.
Okay, so this I've just been handed, so bear with me, but I have to say I'm giggling already. This is Politically Correct Santa. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and Santa's a wreck. How to live in a world that's politically correct. His workers no longer would answer to elves. Vertically challenged, they were calling themselves. Labour conditions at the North Pole were challenged by the Union to stifle the soul. 4 reindeer had vanished without much propriety, released to the wilds by the Humane Society. And equal employment had made it quite clear that Santa had better not use just reindeer, so Dancer and Donner, Comet and Cupid were replaced by 4 pigs, and you know that looks stupid. The runners had been removed from his sleigh, the ruts were termed dangerous by the EPA, and people had started to call for the cops when they heard that sled noses were on their rooftops. Second-hand smoke from his pipe had made his workers quite frightened. His fur-trimmed red suit was called Unenlightened, and to show you the strangest of life's ebbs and flows, Rudolph was suing over authorised use of snow, and had gone on to Geraldo in front of the nation, demanding millions in overdue compensation. So half of the reindeer were gone, and his wife, who suddenly said she'd enough of this life, joined a self-help group packed and left in a whiz, demanding from now to be called just Ms. And as for the gifts, why, he'd ne'er had a notion that making a choice could cause such commotion. Nothing of leather, nothing of fur, which meant nothing for him and certainly nothing for her. Nothing that might be construed to pollute, nothing to aim, nothing to shoot, nothing that clamoured or made lots of noise, not just for girls or for the boys. Nothing that claimed to be gender-specific, nothing that's warlike nor non-Pacific. No candy or sweets, they were bad for the tooth. Nothing that seemed to embellish a truth. And fairy tales, while not yet forbidden, were like Ken and Barbie, better off hidden. For they raised the hackles of those psychological who claimed the only good gift was one ecological. No baseball, no football, someone could get hurt besides playing sports that exposed kids to the dirt. Dolls were said to be sexist and should be passé, and Nintendo would rot your entire brain away. So Santa just stood there, dishevelled, perplexed. He just could not figure out what to do next. He tried to be merry, he tried to be gay, but you've got to be careful with that word today. His sack was quite empty, limp to the ground. Nothing fully acceptable was to be found. Something special was needed, a gift that might give to all without angering the left or the right. A gift that would satisfy with no indecision each group of people, every religion, every ethnicity, every hue, everyone, everywhere, even you. So here it is, that gift, its price beyond worth. May you and your loved ones enjoy peace on earth.
Oh, Roz, I say. How much did Santa pay for his sleigh? Nothing, it was on the house. What carol is heard in the desert? Camel, ye faithful. I'm sorry. Okay. And finally, on a Santa theme, can Santa's reindeer fly higher than a 15-story building?
Of course they can.
Buildings can't fly at all. you cracked it. Okay, so what do you have for us?
Okay, I've got here something by John Julius Norwich, and it's called The 12 Days of Correspondence, of Christmas Correspondence, and it's beautifully illustrated by Quentin Blake. So I'll do my best. It's going to cover the whole 12 days, 12th night, and we're starting on the first day. No, it's not to be sung. We've got a feast in front of us. Please enjoy while you're listening to us. So, 25th of December. My dearest darling, that partridge in that lovely little pear tree. What an enchanting, romantic, poetic present. Bless you and thank you. Your deeply loving Emily. And on we go. 26th of December. My dearest darling Edward, the 2 turtle doves arrived this morning and are cooing away in the pear tree as I write. I'm so touched and grateful. With undying love as always, Emily. 27th of December. My darling Edward, you do think of the most original presents. Whoever thought of sending anybody 3 French hens? Do they really come all the way from France? It's a pity that we have no chicken coops, but I expect we'll find some. Thank you anyway. They're heaven. Your loving Emily. 28th of December. Dearest Edward, what a surprise. 4 calling birds arrived this morning. They are very sweet, even if they do call rather loudly. They make telephoning impossible, but I expect they'll calm down when they get used to their new home. Anyway, I'm very grateful. Of course I am. Love from Emily. 29th of December. Dearest Edward, the postman has just delivered 5 most beautiful gold rings, 1 for each finger, and all fitting perfectly. A really lovely present. Lovelier in a way than birds, which do take rather a lot of looking after. The 4 that arrived yesterday are still making a terrible row, and I'm afraid none of us got much sleep last night. Mummy says she wants to use the rings to wring their necks. She's only joking, I think, though I know what she means, but I love the rings. Bless you. Love, Emily. 30th of December. Dear Edward, whatever I expected to find when I opened the front door this morning, it certainly wasn't 6 socking great geese laying eggs all over the doorstep. Frankly, I rather hoped you had stopped sending me birds. We have no room for them, and they have already ruined the croquet lawn. I know you meant well, but let's call a halt, shall we? Love, Emily. 31st of December. Edward, I thought I said no more birds. But this morning I woke up to find no less than 7 swans, all trying to get into our tiny goldfish pond. I'd rather not think what happened to the goldfish. The whole house seems to be full of birds, to say nothing of what they leave behind. Please, please, stop. Your Emily. 1st of January. Frankly, I think I prefer birds. What am I to do with 8 milkmaids and their cows? Is this some kind of joke? If so, I'm afraid I don't find it very amusing. Emily. 2nd of January. Look here, Edward. This has gone far enough. You say you're sending me 9 ladies dancing. All I can say is that judging from the way they dance, they're certainly not ladies. The village just isn't accustomed to seeing a regiment of shameless hussies with nothing on but their lipstick cavorting round the green. And it's Mummy and I who get blamed. If you value our friendship, which I do less and less, kindly stop this ridiculous behaviour at once. Emily. 3rd of January.
As I write this letter, 10 disgusting old men are prancing about all over what used to be the garden. Before the geese and the swans and the cows got at it. And several of them, I notice, are taking inexcusable liberties with the milkmaids. Meanwhile, the neighbours are trying to have us evicted. I shall never speak to you again. Emily. 4th of January. This is the last straw. You know I detest bagpipes. The place has now become something between a menagerie and a madhouse, and a man from the council has just declared it unfit for habitation. At least Mummy has been spared this last outrage. They took her away this afternoon in an ambulance. I hope you're satisfied. 5th of January. Sir, our client, Miss Emily Wilbraham, instructs me to inform you that with the arrival on her premises at 7:30 this morning of the entire percussion section of the Royal Liverpool Philharmonic Orchestra and several of their friends, she has no course left open to her but to seek an injunction to prevent your importuning her further. I am, sir, yours faithfully, G. Creep, solicitor at law.
Right, I've got a couple of jokes for you. Where does Father Christmas go to recover after Christmas?
An elf farm.
Oh, elf farm. What does Santa suffer from if he gets stuck in the chimney?
Touch of the flu?
Could be. No, in fact, it's claustrophobia.
Oh.
Who is never hungry at Christmas? No. The turkey, because it's always stuffed. And, of course, what kind of motorbike does Santa ride? No, it's not a ho-ho Honda.
Go on.
It's a Holly Davidson. Oh. And finally, what's the difference between the Christmas alphabet and the regular one?
There's no L.
Yeah.
Well, I thought I've given a dog poem from the UA Fan Thought collection. I thought the cat lovers out there would like a little bit of balance. So in the interest of balance, here's Cat in the Manger. In the story, I'm not there. Ox and ass arranged at prayer, but me, nowhere. Anti-cat evangelists. How on earth could you have missed such an obvious and able occupant of any stable? Who excluded mouse and rat? The harmless, necessary cat. Who snuggled in with the holy pair? Me, my purr. Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and John, who got it wrong, who left out the cat. Remember that. Wherever he went in this great affair, I was there. So you're off for all cat people. Who's going to be next?
Yeah,
Ross,
well, here's a little bit of sanity in this madness. I think the history of the Christmas card, according to this book, anyway. The birth of the Christmas card is generally attributed to Sir Henry Cole, an Englishman. In the early 1840s, this man of letters found himself in a difficult situation. He had fallen considerably behind on his seasonal correspondence, and his solution turned out to be a stroke of utter genius. He commissioned John Calcutt Horsley, an artist friend from the Royal Academy, to create a greeting card. Horsley's design portrayed a happy family feasting and toasting the holidays, alongside vignettes of people offering clothing to the poor and feeding the hungry. Although others had created and sent handcrafted Christmas cards, Horsley's were the first to be professionally printed, and Cole had 1,000 of these cards lithographed. That's clever. At that time, they sold at an old Bond Street gift book company for $1 apiece. The decade of the 1840s saw the beginning of the penny post in Victorian England, as well as innovations in the steam press, which made mass production and mass mailing possible as never before. Now, Christmas cards in the US didn't take off until 1875, after the German board lithographer, that's difficult to say after non-alcoholic, Louis Prang, designed a series of Christmas cards depicting reproductions of paintings with as many as 20 colours. Prang's cards had a huge following in England as well. Now, to find the best Christmas art, Prang held numerous contests and offered cash prizes to contemporary painters. The art on his cards often featured nature scenes, family gatherings, singing children, and cherubim. His innovations turned a Christmas tradition into a Christmas industry. There you go.
Very good.
There you go. Katherin, think on. Absolutely.
Well, I've got here Richard Wilson, Scrooge's Guide to Christmas, a survival manual for the festively challenged. And it's got little asterisks on the front. Drink, more for less. Food, the joy of giblets. Reindeer, cuddle or cull. Family, avoiding and offending. Decorations, cheap is cheerful. And oh, there's so many things. What can I use? Basically, his idea about the Scrooge's Guide to Christmas is that you really do not want to be good at entertaining, because if you're good at entertaining, people will stay, and you'll have to spend more money, and they'll want to come back. So basically, yeah. So I'll give you a little snippet of how he deals with unwanted guests, and how he prepares for them with his drinks offerings. Do not be rash. Do not go mad. There is nothing wrong in these days of breathalyzers, alcoholism, and health fads in presenting all your guests with a simple fruit cup. I usually go for a blend of long life orange juice, a dash of Ribena, and a can of pineapple chunks, using every last drop of the liquor. For those of you who will insist on spoiling a beautiful cocktail with valuable proof spirit, then may I recommend the addition of small quantities of Listerine or very cheap gin, best purchased in a Calais hypermarket. Alternatively, use up the remains of old bottles of Advocat, Blue Bowls, Benylin Super Strength Only, or Night Nurse. While most of the elements of a family Christmas are left to the discretion of the host, there is actually ancient legislation that says you must serve mulled wine, even though few people can stomach more than one plastic cupful in the course of a year. Apart from from scalding the mouth, it always seems to contain unidentifiable pieces of brown fruit with unpleasant textures. So, whereas throughout this invaluable book I have presented an anti-traditional approach, I cannot be seen to be encouraging lawlessness. Here, then, is a straightforward guide to mulled wine, which, while maintaining the spirit of my thesis, should also keep the authorities off your back. So here's a recipe for the season. My traditional mulled wine. Ingredients. 1 litre of random red wine. I am reluctant to recommend a particular variety, but remember, you are not trying to spoil anyone. Go for something with a screw top, or better still, something shipped in polythene with a name that sounds vaguely East European. 2 litres of water. There is nothing remotely amusing to be said about water, unless you live in the Thames area, in which case, good luck. 1 orange stuck with cloves. I'm assuming this means cloves of garlic. Miscellaneous fruit. Oranges, lemons, tomatoes, whatever. 4 tablespoons of sugar or equivalent of hermesitas. A small licorice stick. A slightly larger cinnamon stick. And the thumping great stick you use to play fetch with Fido. 2 teaspoons of fresh or ground ginger or medium-sized slice of McVitie's ginger cake. A generous splash of your favourite liqueur, creme de menthe, would be ideal. Be aware that Cointreau provides too sympathetic a flavour for your needs. Instructions. Throw all the ingredients into a cauldron. Boil like mad for about an hour, stirring occasionally if you're already in the vicinity. 2. There is no 2. See, I said it was simple.
So I have here an extract from the New York Sun, the New York Sun edition of September the 21st, 1897. And it goes something like this. We take pleasure in answering at once and thus prominently the communication below, expressing at the same time our great gratification that its faithful author is numbered among the friends of the Sun. Dear Editor, I am 8 years old. Some of my friends say there is no Santa Claus. Papa says, if you see it in the sun, it's so. Please tell me the truth. Is there a Santa Claus? Virginia O'Hanlon, 115 West 95th Street. Virginia, your little friends are wrong. They have been affected by the scepticism of a sceptical age. They do not believe except they see. They think that nothing can be which is not comprehensible by their little minds. All minds, Virginia, whether they be men's or children's, are little. In this great universe of ours, man is a mere insect, an ant in his intellect, as compared with the boundless world about him, as measured by the intelligence capable of grasping the whole of truth and knowledge. Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. He exists as certainly as love and generosity and devotion exist, and you know that they abound and give to your life its highest beauty and joy. Alas, how dreary would be the world if there were no Santa Claus. It would be as dreary as if there were no Virginias. There would be no childlike faith then, no poetry, no romance to make tolerable this existence. We should have no enjoyment except in sense and sight. The eternal light with which childhood fills the world would be extinguished. Not believe in Santa Claus? You might as well not believe in fairies. You might get your papa to hire men to watch in all the chimneys on Christmas Eve to catch Santa Claus, but even if they did not see Santa Claus coming down, what would that prove? Nobody sees Santa Claus, but that is no sign that there is no Santa Claus. The most real things in the world are those that neither children nor men can see. Did you ever see fairies dancing on the lawn? Of course not, but that's no proof that they are not there. Nobody can conceive or imagine all the wonders that are unseen and unseeable in the world. You tear apart the baby's rattle and see what makes the noise inside, but there is a veil covering the unseen world, which not the strongest man, nor even the united strength of all the strongest men that have ever lived could tear apart. Only faith, fancy, poetry, love, romance can push aside that curtain and view and picture the supernal beauty and glory beyond. Is it all real? Ah, Virginia, in all this world there is nothing else real and abiding. No Santa Claus? Thank God he lives, and he lives forever. 1,000 years from now, Virginia, nay, 10 times 10,000 years from now, he will continue to make glad the heart of childhood.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
And that was written by the editor, Francis P. Church of the New York Sun.
Not the London Sun.
Not the London Sun, no, that would have had a slightly different...
Lowering the tone.
Far too many words.
Yes.
No, so who's going to lower the tone after that?
I can lift a little. Well, actually, only a very little, because this is a short history of elves, okay? Yeah. This belief in elves originated in the mythical tree spirits of Northern Europe and Scandinavia. The Celts worshipped evergreens and the elfin spirits who lived in them, also known as pixies, brownies, fairies, dryads, and huldy folk. These fairy tales beings could either be benevolent or mischievous to people, depending on whether or not the people had been good. Santa Claus himself is the first elf, according to Clement Clark Moore's 1822 poem, A Visit from St. Nick. By 1850, Santa's elfin helpers appeared for the first time in the American picture book Little Messenger Birds by Mrs. Caroline H. Butler. Now, around the same time, Scandinavian folk tales, as told by Finnish writer Zacchaeus and Swedish poet Victor Reinberg, revealed that the true purpose of elves was to help Father Christmas care for his reindeer, make the toys in his workshop, and keep an eye on which children were naughty and which were nice. They still do.
I think you're thinking... reading earlier about the Christmas card, and I think one of the images that we have very much about Christmas and Christmas card is the snow and how beautiful it all looks in the country under snow. And mustn't it be wonderful? Well, I'd like to kind of bring us down to earth a bit on what that meant if you were a Victorian in the midst of all that snow. And I found this is from the diary of a country parson. Reverend Francis Kilvert. Now, he was a country curate serving in the rural parish of Clayraux in Radnorshire. That's just on the Welsh side of the border between Wales and England. In 1870, we find him in his 29, and he'd already been working in the parish for 5 years. Now, he kept a diary, and part of it survived, published last century, and it covers the years from 1870 to 1879. So here he is, Christmas Eve morning in 1870, describing the practicalities of life in a freezing country rectory. Saturday, Christmas Eve. An intense frost in the night. Lowest point, 14 degrees. When I went into my bath, I sat down amongst a shoal of fragments of broken ice, sharp as glass. Everything was frozen, stiff and stark, sponge, brushes and all. After I had used the sponge and put it into the basin, it was frozen to the basin again in less than 5 minutes. Up to Caimor again, and the people began to pour in for their beef, pudding and beer with their baskets and bottles. I took the opportunity of finding out who wanted bedding most. It was a very poor parish. When I went down to the church again, the clerk and the schoolmaster were dressing the outer porch arch. The inner arch was wreathed with one beautiful ivy spray. And there's more. The next morning, Sunday, was Christmas Day. As I lay awake, praying in the early morning, I thought I heard a sound of distant bells. It was an intense frost. I sat down in my bath upon a sheet of thick ice which broke in the middle in large pieces, while sharp points and jagged edges stuck all round the sides of the tub, not particularly comforting to the naked thighs and loins, for the keen ice cut like broken glass. The ice water stung and scorched like fire. I had to collect the floating pieces of ice and pile them on a chair before I could use the sponges, and then I had to thaw the sponge in my hands, for it was a mass of ice. But the morning was most brilliant. Walked to the Sunday school, and the road sparkled with millions of rainbows, 7 colours gleaming in every glittering point of hoarfrost. The church was very cold, in spite of 2 roaring stove fires. I don't know, I read that. I doubt if any of us today would show such fortitude and determination in the cause of personal cleanliness. I think one frozen bath would be quite enough. But our Victorian forefathers were definitely made of sterner stuff, and he was very precise in writing down that experience, for which we must thank him and be grateful for whatever hot water we may have this Christmas season. May all our boilers stay working over the season. Who's going to brighten up the tone?
I've got a little Christmas office memo here by Philip Wynne. Memorandum to all employees of Christmas Inc. Re-downsizing. Season's greetings. The recent announcement that Donna and Blitzen have elected to take the early reindeer retirement package has triggered a good deal of concern about whether they will be replaced, and about other restructuring decisions here at the North Pole. Streamlining was appropriate in view of the reality that the North Pole no longer dominates the season's gift distribution business. Home shopping channels and mail-order catalogues have diminished Santa's market share, and he could not sit idly by and permit further erosion of the profit picture. The reindeer downsizing was made possible through the purchase of a late-model Japanese sled for the CEO's annual trip. Improved productivity through Dasher and Dancer, who summered at the Harvard Business School, is anticipated and should take up the slack with no discernible loss of service. Reduction in reindeer will also lessen airborne environmental emissions, for which the North Pole has been cited and received unfavourable press. I am pleased to inform you that Rudolph's role will not be disturbed. Tradition still counts for something in the North Pole. Management denies, in the strongest possible language, the earlier leak that Rudolph's nose got that way not because of the cold, but from substance abuse. Calling Rudolph a lush who was into the sauce and never did pull his share of the load was an unfortunate comment made by one of Santa's helpers and taken out of context at a time of year when he is known to be under executive stress. As a further restructuring, today's global challenges require the North Pole to continue to look for better, more competitive steps to take. Effective immediately, the following economy measures are to take place in the 12 Days of Christmas subsidiary. The partridge will be retained, but the pear tree never turned out to be the cash crop forecast. It will be replaced. It will be replaced by a plastic hanging plant, providing considerable savings in maintenance. The two turtle doves represented redundancy that is simply not cost-effective. In addition, their romance during working hours could not be condoned. Their positions are eliminated. The 3 French hens will be eliminated. After all, nobody likes the French. The 4 calling birds have been replaced by an automated voicemail system with a call waiting option. An analysis is underway to determine who the birds have been calling, how often, and how long they talked. The 5 golden rings have been put on hold by the board of directors. Maintaining a portfolio on one commodity could have negative implications for our institutional investors. Diversification into other precious metals as well as a mix of T-bills and high technology stock appears to be in order. The 6 geese laying constitute a luxury which can no longer be afforded. It has been long felt that the production rate of 1 egg per goose per day is an example of the decline in productivity. 3 geese will be let go, and an upgrading in the selection procedure by personnel will assure management that from now on every goose it gets will be a good one. The 7 swans are swimming is obviously a number chosen in better times. The function is primarily decorative. Mechanical swans are on order. The current swans will be retrained to learn some new strokes, enhancing their outplacement potential. As you know, the 8 maids a milking concept has been under heavy scrutiny by the EEOC. A male-female balance in the workplace is being sought. The more militant maids consider this a dead-end job with no upward mobility. Automation of the process may permit the maids to try amending, a mentoring, or a mulching. 9 ladies dancing has always been an odd number. This function will be phased out as these individuals grow older and can no longer do the steps. 10 lords leaping is overkill. The high cost of the lords plus the expense of international air travel prompted the compensation committee to suggest replacing this group with 10 out-of-work lawyers. While leaping ability may be somewhat sacrificed, the savings are significant because we expect an oversupply of unemployed lawyers this year and the next. 11 pipers piping and 12 drummers drumming is a simple case of the band getting too big. Substituting a string quartet, cutting back on new music, and no uniforms will produce savings which drop right to the bottom line. Thus, we can expect a substantial reduction in assorted people, fowl, animals and other expenses. Also, though incomplete, studies indicate that stretching deliveries over 12 days is inefficient. If we can drop ship in 1 day, service levels will be improved. Regarding the Attorneys Association lawsuit seeking expansion to include the legal profession, 13 lawyers are suing, action is still pending. If put into effect, the Compensation Committee's proposal should help. Lastly, it is not beyond consideration that deeper cuts may be necessary in the future to stay competitive. If that happens, the board will request management to strictly scrutinise the Snow White division to see if 7 dwarves is still the right number.
Well done.
I'd like to read a very short poem simply entitled Merry Christmas by Marie Irish, who specialised in writing poems, songs and plays for children. So here's an example of her delightful work. It's called Merry Christmas. I like Christmas Day with its wreaths of holly. I like Santa Claus with his smile so jolly. I like the Christmas tree shining straight and tall. And all my presents, I surely like them all. I like the smiles and cheer, and how I like to hear the happy people say, Merry Christmas, in such a pleasant way.
And from all of us, Merry Christmas.
Well, Mary, we've got a little song for you. Just one verse.
One verse?
Oh, why not?
Just one
Why
verse?
not?
It's been cut this
Just
year.
one verse.
Everybody has
The
to
edited version.
Yes, just one verse. Here we go.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Well, follow that we could not. We've now reached the end of the news for this week and for this year. But so from all of us, from the whole team of Ross, Katherin, Des, me, Patricia, and House on the Control, it's goodbye and Merry Christmas, everybody. And a Happy New Year. Yes. So, final information. I know all our listeners probably know this off by heart, but to remind you now, if you please remember to turn over the address label in your postal packet, put the memory stick into the packet in a closed position and return it to us as soon as possible in readiness for the next edition. Don't forget, you can call Diane de Jersey regarding any help you may require in connection with the Enfield Talking newspaper on 020 8805 6578. And coming up next are the latest news and information from the Greater London area from InfoSound. But the Talking newspaper will be back with you again in the new year. So, Happy New Year to all of you. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.